Once upon a time there was an old miller who had 3 sons. When the miller died, he left his sons a mill, a donkey, and a cat. The eldest got the mill, the middle got the donkey, and the youngest had to take the cat. The older brothers laughed at him, but the cat promised that he would make his younger brother rich if he gave him a pair of boots and a bag. The owner was surprised, but fulfilled the cat's request. The cat immediately pulled on his boots on his hind legs, poured oats into the sack, threw it over his shoulders, and went hunting. In the forest, he opened the bag, threw it on the ground, and hid himself in the thickets. He didn't have to wait long. A curious hare galloped to the sack and climbed into it to feast on oats. And the cat was just waiting for that. He jumped out of the thicket, tightened the sack, lifted it on his shoulders, and went to the royal castle. The king of that country was a great lover of good food. The cat bowed deeply to him, handed the hare, and said that it was a gift from his master, the Marquis de Carabas. The king was pleasantly surprised by this surprise. The cat bowed like a real nobleman and hit the road.
Goodbye.
The next day he went hunting with the sack again. This time he managed to catch 2 fat partridges. The king was delighted to see another pleasant gift. For several weeks in a row, the cat continued to wear partridges and hares to the king. But he did not say anything about this to his hungry and emaciated owner. Once the cat saw a princess in the palace. She was very beautiful. The cat realized that she would be a wonderful wife for his master. And so the king wanted to finally meet the Marquis. The cat replied that they could find him tomorrow for a walk where the mills were. And he himself ran at full speed to the mill. Seeing the owner, the cat said that tomorrow he will need to swim in the river, and then his life will change. The next morning, as soon as he got into the water, the cat grabbed his clothes and hid them in the bushes. At that moment the royal carriage appeared on the road. The cat jumped out onto the road and shouted at the top of his lungs, "Save me! Help! The Marquis de Carabas is drowning!" Hearing this, the king ordered to pull the Marquis out of the water. The miller's son got very frightened when 2 guards began to drag him out of the river where he was basking in warm water. The king ordered to bring him his silk attire. The miller's son initially refused, but he liked the gold-embroidered clothes so much that he gladly put on the royal outfit. The king invited him to the carriage, where the beautiful princess was sitting. The miller's son was dumbfounded, but without further ado got into the carriage. A minute later, the carriage rolled on through the fields and meadows that belonged to the giant cannibal who lived in a huge castle. The cat wasted no time, and what was the spirit rushed ahead of the carriage towards the meadow, where the reapers were working in the sweat of their brow. He asked them to say that these fields belonged to the Marquis de Carabas, otherwise the evil cannibal will eat them. Before the astonished reapers could reply, the king's carriage pulled up. And when the king asked whose meadows they were, they answered in a friendly chorus that these fields belonged to the Marquis de Carabas. Meanwhile, the cat went straight to the man-eater's castle. With feline dexterity, he jumped over the stone wall and made his way into the castle. The cannibal was sitting at a large table laden with various dishes. Seeing the Puss in Boots, he was greatly surprised at such impudence. The cat began to tease the giant and said that he could not turn into a lion. Before the cat had time to utter these words, the cannibal turned into a huge lion with a shaggy mane. The cat's soul went into his boots from fear, but he overcame it and said that the cannibal could never turn into a mouse. The terrible lion disappeared, and a small mouse appeared in its place. And that was all the cat needed. In the blink of an eye he caught up with the mouse, caught it, and ate it. At this very time, the royal carriage drove into the castle courtyard. Opening the carriage doors, the cat bowed politely and said that he was glad to see everyone in the castle of the Marquis de Carabas. It is difficult to say who was more numb from amazement at these words, the king or the miller's son, who already did not understand anything at all. The cat took the guests to the table. At the end of the dinner, the king, having eaten to the fullest, said that the marquis was indeed a very worthy man, therefore he would gladly give his daughter to wife. The princess was happy, young, handsome, and besides, she really liked the rich marquis. Soon they played a wedding. So the miller's son married a princess and became a prince. All of them lived happily ever after, especially the cat, who proudly paced the palace in high boots. Once upon a time there was a little girl. Her name was Heidi. Heidi's parents died and she was cared for by Aunt Deet. But one day she had to take the girl to her grandfather. He was not very talkative, as he lived in a small house in the mountains. And he found a job in another city, so she had to leave the girl with her grandfather for a while. The grandfather of the Alps is used to living alone far from people. Therefore, he was very happy with his granddaughter, but did not know how to show it. The old man arranged for her a small room in the attic. Heidi fell in love with her grandfather at first sight. A wonderful life in the mountains began for her. The day after arrival, Heidi met her grandfather's huge dog. She spent all her free time with him. One day, while walking the dog in the hills, she met the shepherd Peter, who was tending sheep in the meadow. The children became friends, and Peter began to take Heidi with him for walks in the mountains. Gambling all day, Heidi felt really happy. At the same time, she never forgot about her grandfather, and in everything she helped him around the house. One of her favorite things was to bake bread. Heidi brought it to Peter's mom, and she, in turn, gave the girl fresh goat milk. Summer is over and winter has come. Peter started going to school. But Heidi was still too young for school. Therefore, Aunt Deet returned for her to take the girl to the city and teach her at home after work. The grandfather of the Alps was very upset, but still let the granddaughter go so that she could learn to read and write. Heidi was also very upset, but her aunt promised to return her to the mountains soon. Arriving in the city, the aunt took the girl to a large, beautiful house. There Heidi met the girl Clara. She could not walk and moved in a chair due to an accident that she experienced in early childhood. Auntie brought Heidi to this house to keep Clara company because she had no friends. The girls got along well and became real friends. Clara helped Heidi learn to read and write. Having got used to the new place, the girl began to feel freer. Clara also became very attached to her. But Heidi really missed the mountains and her grandfather. She had everything one could dream of, but she felt like she was in a golden cage. She even stopped eating. Aunt Deet immediately understood why her niece was sad. And I decided to send her back to her grandfather. Clara was very upset that Heidi had to leave. But the aunt promised that Clara would be able to come and visit Heidi next year. A year later, Clara came to Heidi's. She met Peter and the children became very good friends. They walked a lot in the mountains, breathed fresh air, and ate natural food. But after some time, Peter began to worry that Heidi would again leave with Clara in the city. And then one day he threw Clara's wheelchair off a cliff. He thought that this would solve all the problems. But it turned out that without a wheelchair and thanks to the fresh mountain air, Clara became much stronger. And after a while she was able to walk at all. Aunt Deet could not believe her eyes. And Peter felt very ashamed of his act. He admitted that he had thrown Clara's wheelchair off the cliff. Of course the girls forgave him. And the happy friendship of the children has been preserved for life.